We begin thousands of miles to the east in the legendary city of Petra, Jordan, a vast complex of ancient temples and tombs. It's a place filled with history, mystery, and, of course, a miracle. The desert of Jordan is remote, barren, and mysterious. And as one group of British tourists are about to discover, extremely dangerous as well. The 5 young men and women were headed for the ancient city of Petra. Mark Flowers explains.
That part of Jordan is a spectacular drive as you're looking down over the great desert plains. The thing I didn't realize about Petra is it's so big. It's basically a complex of temples, tombs, houses. There's at least a couple of miles of the valley floor to walk through.
The group set off on foot, walking through a narrow gorge until the first ruin appeared, the treasury.
And then, if you want to see the really beautiful buildings, you have to climb up one of the mountains.
Elsbeth Dugdale led the way.
When we started the ascent up the mountain, I did notice the first aid post at the bottom. I don't know why. I wasn't looking for one.
It was late afternoon as the group set off, but the temperature was still in the 90s. The climb would take nearly 45 minutes, and when they reached the top, they were exhausted but exhilarated by what they saw.
Right behind us was this amazing palace building, which is just huge. And I think I said something which I think is pretty immortal now, considering what happened next. I think I said something like, "This is just too perfect, isn't it?"
We decided that it would be a good end to this day to take a group photo. It was the only photo we'd have had of all of us together.
As Elsbeth's husband Jerry began moving stones to prop up the camera, he uncovered a yellow scorpion, the most deadly of its species. And moments later, Ian Gray was stung.
Ah! What's wrong? I'm stung by a scorpion.
I just looked at Ian and I looked at the scorpion, and you just thought, what's going to happen next?
As fellow traveler Caroline Hopkins ran for help, Jerry assessed the situation.
I just knew that a small scorpion could be fatal. The first thing to do was to stop the venom moving around the body, put some sort of tourniquet on.
I don't know anything about scorpions, but I know that if you get stung by a snake, you should try and capture the snake because it's important to get the right kind of anti-venom.
Let's see if we can get it in the bottle. You got it? Oh, fabulous.
Caroline returned a few minutes later with a local cafe owner.
Ian looked quite shocked, and his leg was hurting so much that it seemed to be stiffening up. He wasn't looking particularly great. You're right.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
God, it's really painful.
Does it happen very much?
Yes, many times it's happened.
But he will be okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I make for him medicine.
His medicine consisted of slicing open the wound with a razor and applying sugar and a slice of potato over the cut.
It didn't quite tie up with what I was thinking, with small scorpions, especially small yellow scorpions, being potentially fatal. But I was standing there thinking, this guy must know what he's talking about, because he lives up there.
Thank you.
With the cafe owner saying it is very, very painful, but they do recover, that allayed our fears. Does it really hurt?
Well, it's sort of pins and needles, really. Sort of numbness all the way down this side of the leg.
It didn't seem to be getting any better, because all I could think of, we need to get Ian down the mountain quickly.
I'd rather stay here for a few minutes if that's all right.
Really?
Yeah. No.
It was decided that Jerry and I should run down, and that Mark and Caroline should stay.
See you later. See you later.
Yeah, okay. We set off running at quite a pace, but it's a very steep, rocky path, so we had to concentrate quite carefully. The first aid post at the back of my mind was the lifeline. I thought, well, maybe that's why I noticed it on the way up.
I can't feel my mouth.
Meanwhile, Ian was beginning to exhibit all the symptoms of advanced scorpion venom poisoning.
You couldn't see it, but you could imagine it spreading all through his body, and it started to burn him as well.
They decided they couldn't wait any longer and would have to try to get Ian down the mountain. A 45-minute journey at best.
Great, thanks.
And I was thinking, the one thing I remember about a venomous sting is keep the victim calm and elevate the affected part of the body. Well, that was his knee. And I was thinking, how are we going to get him down the mountain with his knee above his head? All I could think of to do was to talk to him. And I know it sounds daft, but kind of to make light of the situation, to try and make him laugh, because, if Ian looked into our eyes and saw that we were really frightened too, that he would get more frightened, and that kind of terror feeds on itself.
25 minutes had passed, and Elsbeth and Jerry were just arriving at the bottom of the mountain.
And everyone had gone. All the tourists seemed to have disappeared.
The entire area appeared to be deserted.
Our friend is up at the monastery. He's stung by a scorpion in his leg. Got a doctor.
Absolutely, we have doctors here.
Any medicine down
nothing,
here for this?
Nothing at all
Any
here.
phones, anything like that?
Nothing at all.
Anything
Just
like
we're
that?
going to come with you to get him down.
And so we then, having come down the mountain, we then turned round to run back up again.
We must have met Ian and the party coming down about an hour and a half after he was stung.
Well done, yeah.
I was very relieved to see Ian. I thought that he did have that sort of pale grey look about him that was quite shocking to see.
We were hoping that there would be some sort of vehicle that could take us back to where our car was, so that we could take Ian to the local hospital. But of course we got down and there was nothing. We knew that there was still this massive hike back to where our car was.
I had visions of us making this slow progress, with time against us and daylight against us, back through the whole site. It would just be a nightmare to go back that way. There's a truck there might be somebody who can help. The cafe owner was loading up his pickup truck at the end of the day, clearly preparing to go, and he was, from a transport point of view, he was our only hope. Could you take us to a hospital or a clinic?
Yes, to a clinic, yes.
How far is it?
15 minutes.
Can you take us now?
Yes.
Steady.
It's getting dark.
Jerry was a bit frantic, and we were just thinking, we've got to get a move on, we've got to get a move on.
The town must be closing up by now.
Must be over 2 hours now.
Ian was barely conscious as they arrived in the city.
When we got to the clinic, I think first of all there was relief that we'd actually arrived somewhere.
Come on, you're doing great.
But it was quite strange. I don't remember seeing any signs outside that said it was a clinic.
I wasn't very optimistic at what sort of clinic could be up this stairway, whether it was going to be somebody operating out of a kitchen or what. It looked as if we were, popping into somebody's flat.
As soon as we got to the doctor's, things just started to happen, and the doctor went straight into battle action. Ian was going into anaphylactic shock. He started shaking and he started going pale and he started to have another reaction against the venom. I was very worried that even despite the antivenom and everything, that we were just too late.
Sugar. This is the scorpion? Yeah, this is the scorpion? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
The doctor was putting up drips, and I thought by this time he would just be getting better, but he suddenly just dipped and seemed to crash.
Okay.
The doctor got him anti-venom, antihistamine, I think adrenaline or something else like that.
And then suddenly, the power failed.
I have torch. Yeah, where's the light?
It's on there, right? Yeah.
We were trying to find Ian's backside with the light of my torch. In that kind of situation, it's great when you have something funny or calming happens, because it's just such a relief.
I know you're a bit shy.
The doctor moved him into another room and made him sit there until his blood pressure came back up.
Ian Gray was extremely grateful to the man who had saved his life.
The doctor was amazing. He was very calm and efficient. It must have been quite a shock, I would think, to have us all suddenly turn up on his doorstep quite late at night.
But even more amazing was the fact that he'd arrived there at all, for Ian had been stung in one of the most remote and desolate places on Earth, and at a time of day when all available medical help had left the area. And then, just when they'd resigned themselves to having to walk out of the desert, a man and his truck miraculously appeared, carrying them back to civilization with only minutes to spare.
Everyone was amazing. I mean, I hadn't known the group we were with for very long, and obviously didn't know the locals at all until this all happened. But everyone was, well, I suppose I owed them my life.
And they, in turn, each learned a valuable lesson.
If you ever go out in the desert, you don't go poking around under bushes and trees and stones night or day without thinking about what's under them.